tell you a little bit about what my career path has been, so you understand when I get into what distribution is all about, how it means, what it means to me personally, and how we go about distributing the different types of programs, films, TV. Started at Alfred Haber Distribution, which is a Jersey-based company that sold the Grammy Awards, the American Music Awards, all of Dick Clark's Library, the Super Bloopers, you remember all those shows, all over the world. Back in 1989, then went to Polygram as a VP in 95, selling the films from Polygram Films and whatever TV programming we had. Polygram was bought by Seagram's, which owned Universal, and then we became Universal employees. I made the cut. I stayed 13 years through all the iterations of Universal, Vivendi, into Barry Diller, into ultimately General Electric, which owned NBC. Put that together, you have NBC Universal. Now they were just acquired by Comcast, as you know. So changes are ever constant in this business. I got out of that, the major studio business, simply because it was enough change and I wanted to get more independent and have the flexibility to create new distribution models, find alternative sources of funding and package shows, and understand more what the client wants and cater product to what their needs are. Joined a company called Power Television, and when I first joined, I pitched a show called Robinson Crusoe to then Chairman Ben Silverman at NBC. And it was basically young, hot Crusoe living in a tree with all kinds of pirates, people trying to kill him with a backstory in the UK. I love it. 13 episodes, right on the spot. The problem is he only paid us a very small license fee. We had to come up with 80% of the budget from pre-sales and creative financing. And I'll get into that a little later. Also sold another show to NBC called 13, the miniseries. We got a script order on a Peruvian format that we also got with NBC. I left Power to start a company called Engine Entertainment. Same kind of model as that Power model, just thinking creative and outside the box. Did it for about a year and a half. Ben Silverman started a new company called Electus. They bought my company. I'm now running the distribution business of that company. Barry Diller, ironically, is part owner of Electus. So that's where I am now. Distribution is a very big word. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes of distribution. It's not just going to a market in the south of France and having rosé wine, which we do a lot of. It's a lot of schmoozing, but a lot of business as well. Cannes Film Festival, everybody's there, schmoozing. They close deals, but really it's about promoting the upcoming releases. Here, we wear suits and ties. We walk on the Croisette, same place, just different time, with ties. And it's a very serious environment. Of course, the parties at night are the same, but at the end of the day, deals are closed, and people leave with contracts signed for massive packages at studio level and for pre-sales and new series on the independent level. Now, studios, independents, they all have the same objective. It's making money, but they carry out their efforts very different. When I was at the studio, one of the things we had was blockbusters. You sit with a client and you go through your slate of, let's say, A-Team, Rockford Files, The Munsters. They're not going to be that thrilled, but then you sprinkle in Gladiator, American Pie, Jurassic Park, Fast and the Furious, changes the whole negotiation. So with that leverage, we tiered packages. So it's basically, they tell you what they want, which is a cherry-picking approach, and we tell them what they have to take. And it's a huge package. From what they want, 3 films, it becomes 3 films plus 300 hours of library shows. And that's how the studios basically make business, make money with that type of business. Library is all profit. It's already paid for. It's just continued licensing over and over again. And, you know, if you look at a typical film sales cycle or TV sales cycle, if you're waiting to get to the black within the financing for that international TV sale, you're in trouble. This typically is something that is gravy in many cases with feature films. On the television side, they've incorporated the budgets to anticipate the sales from international. And there's so many series, as you know, the series volume on the fall schedule is dozens of very good quality shows. During the May screenings, people in a room like this from Australia, you'll have the Middle East, you'll have Argentina, we'll all sit in a room and we'll show them the pilots. And we'll know what was picked up and they'll buy them on the spot right there. But then what we have to do is package in some of our film library when we know what they want on the TV side. So it's all about packaging. When I first started, international was gravy. It was a telex machine to Sweden, $4,000 back for a magic show. We were thrilled, but it took 3 days to get the response. And that thing that, you all remember telex. I don't think all of you do remember telex, but it's amazing where technology has taken us. But we did business that way. Now the deficit anticipates the international sales, and the pressure on us is remarkable. And if we don't hit the sales targets, it really falls on our shoulders. It used to be that people would call the international marketplace foreign, and that's a bit of an insult, I think, for all of us as producers or distributors. If it's called foreign, they obviously don't know what it is. And it's a global marketplace where every single country should be on their radar, what the needs are on a local level, what the programming grids are in France, in Germany. They should know what they're looking for, because that ultimately is what they're going to be buying. And that's how distributors made a fortune here, where the producers would go to Europe just on holiday. But while they're there, they're not thinking, hey, I can pitch my show to TF1 in France while I'm here. One day, I could do the deal directly, cut out the middleman. Well, that's changed now. They're actually going to the markets, the producers, selling directly, and then telling the studios, oh, by the way, we have Germany, France, and Canada sold. And if you really want that show, you have to do the deal. So it's become incredibly proactive from a producer standpoint. The main markets are Canada, which is a simulcast nation. I don't know if you all know what simulcast means. It means what you see in Canada is the same time when it's on in the US. And NBC, CBS, they all broadcast at the same. The broadcasters pay a premium for that right. When it's a simulcast, the price per episode can be $400,000 an hour, could be $1 million an hour. And if you don't have that simulcast, it's just a typical sale. The price drops from $20,000 to $30,000 an hour. It's a very big difference. Of course, Europe, huge market. Asia, CEE, that's Central Eastern Europe. Latin America, Scandinavia, Benelux, which is Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Africa, and the Middle East. And this is the world. We meet with all of these buyers from these regions at MIPCOM, MIP, this is in Cannes, April and October, and NAPI, which is in Miami now, in January, and the LA screenings, which is when the pilots come out. Like I said, everyone's watching the pilots, that's in May. And then DISCOP, which they have a DISCOP Africa and a DISCOP in Hungary. And the markets just keep popping up. Every month there's something to go to, because there's so much product and there's so much demand with the growth of digital terrestrial television channels, cable channels, of course, and pay platforms. And they all need product because they're 24 hours a day. They don't pay as much as the big broadcasters, but they buy the volume. And that's a very big part of our business. And the preparation for these markets is costly. It costs for a booth, a booth, let's say the size of this stage, about $100,000 to have 3 offices and an open area. It's costly. Then you have the dinners and the rosé on top of it, the hotels, the flights. It's very expensive to attend these markets. Now, the buyers are typically a mix of programmers, and you can tell the difference between the programmers and the acquisitions. Acquisitions people are typically lawyers. The programmers are, no socks, just loosey-goosey. And the owners, they attend as well. And they're a different breed. If you look at Silvio Berlusconi, would attend the meetings personally. He owns 2 networks now, I guess. Well, one he really owns, the other one he runs because it's a government station, but he used to attend all the meetings and negotiate with the studios directly. Obviously, he doesn't go anymore, but in Latin America and some of the emerging markets, the owners who have a vested interest want to know where their money is being spent. And you sit across from a billionaire, it's the Murdoch of every little country around the world, that will negotiate with you personally, and they're skilled negotiators. And $100 extra an episode, you'll fight for hours over. It'll take weeks to close. It's like you're taking bread off of their table, and the kids are now going to starve. And it's that kind of negotiation. The young programming directors that just start, they're easy to negotiate with. They get a salary, they want to drink rosé, and they want to close some business to justify going to the markets, but every region is very special. And that's when you have the specialized salespeople. I handled Latin America for Universal for some time, and it's a very particular region that sharpens your skill set in negotiating, and it's fun. After you close these deals, somebody has to generate the contracts, somebody has to ship the materials, which Von did for us at Universal for a long time. It's all the post-sale activity. But one of the things that Von always dealt with is the dubbing of material. The French, with an unnamed broadcaster, will make their contracts contingent on approval of the French version. So you'll actually go and spend $10,000 an hour, and they'll reject it. This delays their payment. And then you dub it again, and they reject it. It's a game. And eventually, they'll accept it, or maybe not. And these are one of the nightmare situations that the post-sale, the distribution services people have to deal with. And ultimately, it falls on our shoulders, because if the cash doesn't come in, our budgets are greatly affected. So Electus, Ben Silverman's company, is a company that has a distribution machine, obviously, and production entities that in the aggregate produce about 22 shows we've sold to the networks already. This then is a mix of reality and scripted. When we're done, we keep all international rights. It's the deal that we just do with every network, and we build our international library. And we are starting out, but with 22 shows, I think it's a significant volume where the expense of the distribution services, the availability systems, all that is starting to be realized, and there are growing pains with it. The days where the network pays 100% of the production and gives up international rights are over. Even the cable networks that don't have any distribution teams, they retain international and they'll shop it, the highest bidder. Every distributor is going to raise their hand and put a bid in because everyone's looking for US network, whether it's cable or mainstream, free-to-air. They need this product. So it's a very competitive landscape. Not everybody has the ability to produce and own and control the rights to these shows. So the independent market is incredibly competitive. Branded entertainment. I'm sure you've all seen some kind of brand integration in shows that you watch, but it's being taken to a completely different level, where the brands are the producers. They are actually saying, we want to be part of that show from the beginning, pay for it, and they are essentially executive producers on the show. And when they come to the set, it's like Lou Wasserman just arrived. It's amazing how we treat them. And they look to create entertainment around their brands, but are they really creating entertainment brands? And that's what the clever companies, the brands that know what they're doing, are creating these brands that can be digital, they go viral, they can turn into a long-running series on a major network or a cable network. And many of them tried to become producers and failed miserably because there needs to be a tasteful implementation. And it can't be a circus of brands where it's just an infomercial. It turns people off. You're not going to sell it to a network. No one's going to want to see it. And finding that balance of elegant storytelling with overt placement is the key. Social media, is also an ally, a natural ally, and celebrities help quite a bit in promoting the brands when there's brand association with the celebrity, but they're very expensive celebs. And one example of branded placement where the brands helped pay for the show is a new show called Fashion Star that we just sold to NBC. We actually produced all 10 episodes. It's up-and-coming designers that want a chance to sell their line to a department store. They would normally never have the opportunity to be in front of these buyers of Macy's, Saks, H&M. So what we do is we give them that platform with the behind the scenes, which is always touching and heartfelt, and the mentors. We have Jessica Simpson, Nicole Richie, John Varvatos. They help them behind the scenes, bringing them to a point where they can put on a big stage show. We give them all the money to do a fashion show. And up in the booth are Macy's, Saks, and H&M, the head buyers. And they put their money where their mouth is. So they're getting great exposure. They're the Simon Cowells of the show. And what they do is bid on the lines as they see it. And Elle Macpherson is the host. And she pushes them and says, oh, come on, you can put another $10,000 up. So it's this bidding war where these unknown designers then have to choose, if there's a tie, which department store they actually will go into. It's a great concept. The models behind the scenes have Maybelline, where whatever, Wella and Maybelline, that is placed in a very subtle way. But again, they pay something for that. H&M, Macy's, and Saks, we also have Chrysler on board. So when you look at all of these brands that are part of it, and it's really a very natural fit for the show, they're paying for most of the production. It truly is the only way to be able to control all rights and not be at the mercy of a network from a financing standpoint. And in summary, all producers must think like distributors, and all distributors must think like producers. And the days where the execs in LA call it foreign, they're gone. And if you know how something is produced, then you should know the life cycle of the distribution. And if you know exactly how things are sold, as I said before, you should know how things are produced. And the future is the same as the past in distribution. How it's consumed is irrelevant. It's going to change every year with technology. The quality of the content is all that matters. Good content with creative business models will keep you in business. I think what we strive to do now is when we sit with a buyer, we don't only push out and say, here's a show for you. It's, what are you producing? And if it's in production, somebody else has probably already optioned the rights. The agencies all go to these markets and visit the countries now. It's, what do you have in development? And when you visit them in their countries, you should meet with the production companies that they have first look deals with, because the formats that they produce translate all over the world in some cases. You look at Ugly Betty, you look at The Office, The Biggest Loser. So we actually look to option product right when it's picked up by a network in Hungary or in Singapore, and that's how you build a library. We just picked up something, Kitchen Musical, out in Asia, and it's what it is. It's a scripted show. Everyone's singing in a kitchen, and it's fun, and it's great for every country. Everyone loves food. It takes food to the next level. It's not a competition. It's a scripted show that's kind of like Glee, and it's fun. I never thought that I would see a show like it. It popped up. There's always something new. And you think that reality just can't go anywhere else. It's been everywhere. It's not the case. It's amazing what the development slates look like from our production companies. It's remarkable. Every day, I mean, they're iterations of the same, formula, but we are still creating tremendous ideas that do translate internationally. We have a show called Mob Wives. It's very clear. I'm sure you have some fans here and some smiles. Well, you'd think, how do you find these women? Well, they find you. You say you're doing the show, and they will find you. And they'll make you an offer you can't refuse. But we've done very well internationally selling that show before it was even made, just on the concept and the history of Sopranos and how well it's all the mafia movies that have been successful over the decades. It's an easy pitch. And creating those easy, if you can say what it is in 2 sentences, you'll be able to sell it in 2 minutes.